because bird flu comes from wild birds, I mean, what are we going to do? We are going to consolidate all cows into consolidated feedlot systems with a screen over the top so birds can't poop down into them. Like, it's crazy. We are divine beings. We're going to get sick and we're going to get better. It's none of it is actually a virus. It's all just our body detoxing the chemically processed world that we live in.
What is the next pandemic coming? Mollie and I talk about what we not only think, but what has already started to take place and the fake fear that's going to try and be instilled in America if we don't proactively become aware of this. And what we can see humans being pushed into eating instead to, quote, protect us from this new flu. That is just one topic that wasn't even on my radar, but the conversation just went there, and I'm so glad it did. Mollie and I also talk about Sage Regenerative Kitchen because as a restaurant owner who is doing right by us and offering quality regenerative meat, A2 dairy, sourdough, and house-made sauces, she is struggling. And we talk all about how her restaurant went viral on the news because of the backlash she received from offering such amazing options. Today's conversation is one we all need to have with our family and friends and truly ask ourselves and our community, what is really going on in the food industry and the agenda behind it? Please listen until the very end because there's a special discount code Mollie shares, so stay tuned for that. This was Mollie's second time on the show, and it won't be the last. And if you're listening on YouTube, please comment below and let me know your thoughts and what specifically you enjoyed from this episode. Let's get right into it. And of course, you know this already, but I'm your host, Bethany Cameron, and you're listening to the Digest This podcast. Okay, you guys, listen up. If you have the following symptoms such as constipation or diarrhea, anxiety, sugar or alcohol cravings, poor immune system, compulsive or disordered eating, low muscle mass, poor wound healing, slow recovery after workouts, heartburn or acid reflux, or digestive issues like colitis, IBS, diverticulitis, Crohn's, celiac disease, or symptoms from food sensitivities, taking L-glutamine could be beneficial. L-glutamine is one of the most important nutrients for a healthy digestive tract because of its ability to maintain the integrity of the intestinal wall. This amino acid, which is the most abundant amino acid in our body, helps heal all human tissues, especially those irritated tissues in the digestive tract. It's also been known as the calming amino acid since it's very effective at reducing anxiety, as well as sugar and alcohol cravings. Even progressive addiction treatment centers will use it to help reduce cravings. Plus, get this, you guys, in a 2011 study published in the Yonsei Medical Journal found that glutamine supports the immune system, and it's especially beneficial for patients in the hospital and those fighting viruses or overwhelming infections. Your entire immune system is protected from the toxic environment by your gut barrier. And if that barrier gets damaged, you will get sick and create an overactive immune system, producing inflammation throughout the body. Thankfully, a damaged gut lining can be reversed and can be accomplished by getting enough gut healing nutrients such as L-glutamine. Clinically, medical professionals have found this to be true with their clients, and I myself have experienced the benefits. That's why I created my very own L-glutamine powder under Bethany's Pantry. This powder is pure without any additives, fillers, flavorings, gums, or unnecessary ingredients. The ingredients are literally just one, L-glutamine. It's vegan, paleo, keto, and tasteless. So you can literally just add it to a glass of water, stir for 5 seconds, and sip without tasting anything. This amino acid also works well in smoothies, mixed in yogurt. I've even added it to my guacamole. It dissolves instantly and you can't even tell it's there. And your body will thank you from all the benefits you're giving it to fully heal in the area you need healing, or just boosting your immune system in prep for the upcoming flu season. Guys, I am so proud to finally offer a clean L-glutamine powder I can fully recommend. If you want a bag, just go to newzest-usa.com/Bethany's Pantry, where you'll find this plus all my other Bethany's Pantry items. Again, go to newzest-usa.com/Bethany's Pantry. That's NUZEST-USA.com/Bethany's Pantry. I'll also leave that link in today's show notes. Thank you so much, Mollie, for coming back for the second time. I love that it's just so chill. Like, you're eating your breakfast right now. I'm just like sipping on my element. Like, we're buddy. You, again, you've been on the show. I had to bring you back because so much has happened since last time. And so I feel like, so you opened a restaurant. Let's just like get into the weeds here, because I want to talk about your restaurant, because you kind of like revamped it.
Yeah, I've had a restaurant for 13 years.
Yes.
And I was a super successful operator, and I operated this restaurant year over year growth for 11 years going into the pandemic. And, doing $7 million per restaurant in some locations, $5 million in our slow locations in quotation marks. And so I was wildly successful at large scale vegan restaurants, which at the time people thought was probably not possible 13 years ago. And the pandemic really shifted restaurant life in Los Angeles. People have been retrained to eat at home. A lot of people are still working from home. So if you're working from home, you're less likely to go out for a business lunch. If one parent is working from home, you're less likely to like pick up the kids from daycare and meet at a restaurant. And I'm not saying that these aren't actually maybe good for humanity, for people to be cooking at home or all of these things, spending more time with our children. But what I'm saying is it destroyed the restaurant industry in Los Angeles. 40% of restaurants in California have closed over the last 4 years. And so we're at, a critical point. And we were looking at closing my last 2 stores. We've already closed 2 stores, which is disappointing because I was in contract for $25 million in 2019 going into 2020. And with the pandemic happening and all of the bureaucracy that came along with the fear mongering, it really destroyed restaurants. And then capital fell away from deals like that. And so I lost that. So I went from being like this huge payout for all my years of work to like just pivot and trying to survive. And we lost money year over year for 3 years through the pandemic. And I was looking at just closing. And then in 2019, I had the thought to switch my restaurants to regenerative because I'm a regenerative farmer. And that is my passion. And just like veganism was my passion when I started, regenerative agriculture is what I live for every single day. And so that being said, I didn't think it was a good idea in 2019 when we had this deal on the table to like, hey, actually, let's just change the whole concept. But I thought I would sell it and then I could do the other concept. But life was lifing and it didn't happen that way. So when it came to like, okay, I'm just going to close down my last 2 locations, I thought maybe it's not working. Sure, there's all these outside circumstances that are legitimate, but maybe it's not working because I'm not morally aligned with what I'm doing anymore. And when I started, I was passionate that veganism was a pathway for humanity and the planet, and that it was a numbers game. And I never thought everybody should be vegan, but I thought the more vegan meals that were served, the better for the planet.
You were once vegan, right? You're vegetarian.
And I was vegan for many, many years. I was born a vegan and vegetarian in my teenage years and back to veganism. And so this transition, I just decided to throw my hat over the wall and say, well, let's give it one last chance to survive. We decided to take all the seed oils. We're like 98% no seed oils. We just have a vegan mayonnaise with seed oils because none of the ones without seed oils come in a big, customer food size, but everything else is no seed oils, the fryer, the cooking, the grill, everything. So we're no seed oils, and we're doing regenerative meat and wild harvested meat are the two kinds of meat that we're doing. And then also all of our dairy is coming from Origins, which is also regenerative. And I really believed that LA would just flock to this opportunity to have tallow fries and a venison patty melt, and a bison burger, but it hasn't gone that way. We're really, really struggling, and it's been very, very slow. And the vegans are actively, they just, this last weekend, had so many people put on Apple Maps that this location is permanently closed, that it now says permanently closed. And so we were like $6,000 down on Saturday and $5,000 down yesterday because people use their phones so much.
Okay, so I have so many questions here because, first of all, the idea to go fully regenerative is amazing. And the idea, there's this huge meat movement. I mean, people are going full carnivore. That's how big the meat movement is. And so you would think having a restaurant offering regenerative, grass-fed, organic meats and all these raw A2 dairy, raw cheeses, and all these great options, and not only offering that, but still offering vegan options, because I was looking at your menu and you have like half of your menu is still vegan. And
it's like 70% if you count the things that are like a bowl that comes vegan, but then you can add whatever protein you want.
yeah, so it's not like if you're vegan, you can't eat there. Like you have such, I mean, honestly, I would probably I'm not vegan, but if I wanted to order something that was vegan, I would definitely like go to your restaurant because it's real food. It's not like you're serving up fake chicken or anything like that. So it's like real food.
Never have. We never have done the ultra processed. And the only like kind of ultra processed thing that we used to do is obviously seed oils, and then the cheese alternatives, and they're not good for you. And that is part of what we got rid of. And people are upset with that. Like, oh, we no longer have a cheese option. All of our pizzas that are vegan are more of a flatbread style with like vegetables and sauce and maybe a dipping sauce or a drizzle, but we're not using those high processed.
Yeah, don't you have like a cashew Alfredo for vegans? Yeah, totally. So it's like, I think it's like the perfect pair. If you're vegan or not vegan, you're offering quality food. And so why are people just so outraged? Obviously the vegans, and they're literally, I think it like even made the news. Like people are picketing outside of the restaurant. Like what is happening?
Even national news, it made it all. People from England were calling me. I saw you on your restaurant on the news. But I think that veganism is a religion. It's something that you buy into and you worship, but not a plant-based diet, but this idea like that I cause no harm by doing this thing, and then I feel that I'm doing good. My diet is good. And I was in that church, in their opinion, and now I'm saying out loud, there's no vegan food. There's death, animal death, sentient being death on every plate. The field of cabbages was protected from rabbits, and when it was harvested, there was the potatoes are terrible for the environment. There's so many issues about the soil and how much they have to till it to grow potatoes. There's wheat on my plate that had to be combine harvested, and there's so many rabbits and squirrels and birds and everything that gets caught up in the combine harvester when you harvest. And I came to this conclusion by coming closer to nature and farming. It's not like it's easy to have the idea living in a box in a city in an apartment and say, if I just don't eat meat, it's less harm. And I can see why that logic from that position makes sense. And I believed that as well. But when I got on land and I started to see how it all worked, how food production works, and I was wanting to grow all the food for my family, in California, we had pretty significant land. And you could not grow all the food for our family on that much land. And I mean, maybe if we ate only avocados, but then they don't last all year. Like, I don't know. We'd have to figure out a way to like, it's just not a realistic diet. You know what I'm saying? And so when I was wanting to grow my own food and on my land, and I'm looking at how do I use my land to feed my family, but I'm in the vegan mindset. I had a cow who had a baby, and the baby was only suckling on two of her four teats. And I was thinking, well, we're just wasting this milk. We're just putting it into the ground because we have to empty these two sides so she doesn't get mastitis. And then meanwhile, I'm breastfeeding my infant, and I'm thinking, oh, my boob makes, we call liquid gold, the most nutrient dense food on the entire planet is coming out of my breast. But somehow that causes cancer and obesity and blah, blah, blah. And I was like, so and then I'm looking at the Tetra Packs getting delivered from Costco of like organic oat milk. And I'm thinking, so I was like, that's it. We're feeding the kids milk. If we want to have our own food and be food sovereign, we have to at least do dairy and eggs. There is just no way to get the calories necessary. And then when I started learning about seed oils and I started learning about chemicals, I started to feel further and further away from the vegan diet because there was so little that was out there. And not at home. At home, I can use olive oil and avocado oil and coconut oil. But in the world, it was just like everything was filled with GMOs and chemicals and things I didn't want in my family. And I decided that I'd much rather have my own eggs, my own dairy, and know there was no glyphosates and know that I was building healthy microbiology. And I started to look at raw milk and all these studies and just realizing, of course, raw milk is perfect food. Like, of course it is. And so I just shifted my beliefs, and I never hid it. You know, you could go back on my Instagram or on the Instagram of the farm, Engelhart Farm. And I purposely left up the Engelhart Farm Instagram so that, because people were saying, oh, you were taking our money and you were pretending you were vegan. And I never did. I never hid that I started to shift what I believed. There's videos of my kids milking the cows, milking the goats, collecting eggs. And so I never like pretended, but it still was very shocking to people. So I think to go back to the long answer to your question, is people felt like I abandoned the church of veganism. And the truth is, I never prayed to that church. I always prayed to the church of whole foods and no chemicals. And that veganism was the pathway I thought I was going to go, for the whole foods and no chemicals and better for the planet. But that is not what.
Well, I think the issue too is that a lot of people think, for example, you were talking about milking and how, if you don't milk a cow, they actually will start to hurt because you have to relieve them. Now, there's a difference between the factory farms that are not allowing or giving a good life to these cows that literally just stand there and they're milking them constantly versus.
That doesn't exist. Nobody.
I feel like.
But here, factory farming and factory dairy has a lot of problems, but there's also misnomers. Nobody's getting milked all day long. It's just not happening because it's just like a person. You make milk builds up, you milk it out, and you don't get milked all day. You're either getting milked twice a day or milked once a day.
Well, and I feel like a lot of people do think that, and they think that narrative. And so they're just thinking, oh my gosh, this is just horrible. Where, as you said, once you had your own farm, you saw how things actually worked. And now, just like the chickens, if you they think, oh, we're just like giving our money to the chickens that are not seeing any daylight or blah, 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 blah. And there's a difference between like a regenerative farm and the food that comes from that versus all the conventional farms, and not just the way that they treat the animals, but actually the nutrients, which, you know, we can get into too. But there's a huge difference that I feel like vegans perhaps don't realize, or maybe they do. And like you were saying, it's just the lifestyle. And they are very, how do I push this? But they want to push that narrative where I will argue the carnivore lifestyle, I've seen some pretty heavy people push that as well. And they're like, all you need to eat is meat. This is all you need to eat. And I guess where I'm going with this whole this whole rant is that people that are so into the diet that they follow, whether you are vegan or carnivore, people that are like hardcore, they try and push that narrative and they try and push that way. And I'm just curious, like, be a little bit more loosey-goosey.
Well, here's my thing is, I think two things. People always ask me, well, then what do you think is the right diet for humanity and for the planet? Well, can't speak for humanity, can't speak for women, can't speak for white people, I can't speak for any group of anything because we're all different. So I say, listen to your body, eat whole foods, don't eat ultra processed foods, and don't eat anything that you can't, when you read the ingredient, you can't imagine it growing in your grandma's garden. And I think you'll be okay. That's kind of my belief system. And just like no indigenous groups anywhere have ever self-selected for veganism, there's very few indigenous groups that have, or none, that have self-selected for only eating meat. There is places where it is Alaska or something where there's no vegetables growing and it's snow and they only eat meat. And so there is some tribes that are doing more of a carnivore diet, but it's not self-selected. It's based on what grows in your area. And I think that after all the years that humanity's been alive, the fact that we're still like arguing about, is red meat toxic? Is leafy green vegetables toxic? You know, there's a lot of people saying vegetables are toxic and you should only eat meat and blah, blah, blah. Here's what I'm going to say. I don't think that red meat is toxic, and I don't think that vegetables are toxic. I think that ultra processed foods, seed oils, and all the chemicals that we are spraying pounds and pounds and pounds per capita onto our food system is what's toxic. And I don't think that we should be pointing fingers at spinach and broccoli and red meat. I think we need to be all turning our heads towards the medical and pharmaceutical, agricultural, industrial complex, because it's all connected, and say, stop it. Enough is enough. We don't want to be sick and we don't want your food. And that really needs to be the message, that we all come together and say, enough is enough. I want clean water, clean air, clean food, no chemicals. That's what I want. And if you want to eat kale and quinoa for the rest of your life, and you want to eat only steak for the rest of your life, then those two people should be partners in clean air, clean water, no more chemicals, no more pesticides.
Yeah. No processed foods, no fake
processed foods,
fake meats or whatever.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, no, I can completely agree. And I think too, the whole agenda, and they want this controversy. They want people arguing, the people behind it, because it puts more fuel to the fire, and it allows them to kind of continue to do what they're doing under the radar, some under the radar and some, it's out there.
For sure. And the algorithms support it. I see that when I post something that's just like about my cows or something like that, it's like, I don't know, 2,000 views, 3,000 views. And then I post something like talking directly to the vegans for getting my restaurant permanently closed on Apple Maps. It's 25,000 views in 24 hours. So yeah. I see that whatever I'm talking about controversy, even if it's in a respectful and kind way, that gets pushed. But if I the other day I said, if you look at, I had my cows in the pasture, and I said, if you see my cows in the pasture right here and you think that they're the problem and your Tesla is the solution, then you're disconnected from nature. And it only got 600 views. So like clearly like that is anti whatever the algorithm is.
Yeah. It's still funny that people think that cow farts are polluting.
Cows don't even fart. Mostly they burp. Like it's, but
there you go. That's something you should share. You should debunk that.
But I have a question. Has anybody ever pulled an ice core from from 1400s or 1500s when there was millions of buffalo roaming? Has anybody pulled an ice core and they're like, oh my goodness, the methane from all those buffalo, all those bison, it's crazy. No, nobody ever has. And so again, we look at our ancestral foods and those are all okay, whether it's meat or vegetables, squash, beans, corn, the old varieties, all of those are okay. All of those are just fine. But it's the same, like now they're trying to say cows are the problem. We've built these huge cities and we're making all these batteries and all this mining all these minerals out of the ground, and we're disrupting nature, we're disrupting ecosystems, and
nobody's talking about that.
And cows are the problem. Just like imagine tech has like a complete pass. I'm super pro Bitcoin, I'm pro a lot of different kinds of tech, but there is an environmental, in quotation marks, impact, and real human impact is the more important part to many of these technologies. And we're screaming about a cow is sucking up all the oxygen and putting out methane. It's crazy.
I was able to try Peak Tea's new coffee alternative a month before it actually launched, and I've been obsessed ever since. It's called Nandaka, and it reminds me of an upscale hot cocoa when enjoyed warm, but you can also add it to a smoothie for a creamy coffee alternative drink. It's designed to help hormone regulation, and who doesn't need a little hormone regulating these days? Am I right? This blend is infused with ceremonial Peruvian cacao to activate metabolism, functional mushrooms to enhance mood and promote cellular renewal, and fermented pu'er teas that provide calm, sustained energy. And if it's from Peak, then you already can trust it's organic, vegan, and non-GMO. And the best part is that there's no added sugar, preservatives, fillers, or quote, natural flavors that are commonly being added to teas and drink mixes these days, which is quite disturbing, honestly. So I know I can trust Peak Tea because they don't add any nasties or questionable ingredients. Plus, they triple toxin screen all their teas for purity, ensuring no mold, pesticides, heavy metals, or harmful chemicals are in their tea crystals. And yes, even though they're all certified organic, Peak Tea still takes the extra step to screen all their powders. So whether you drink coffee or not, I really think you'll be obsessed, just like I am, with their Nandaka coffee alternative. It's perfect hot or chilled. And this is really cool because they have a free 30-day return policy. So if you try something and you're not happy with it, just send it back for a refund. And you guys know I got a deal for you as well. So if you go to peaklife.com/digest, you can receive up to 15% off plus up to 2 free gifts. That's peaklife.com/digest to get a discount and some freebies. That's peaklife.com/digest. If you've ever wondered about the non-toxic air fryers, shampoos and conditioners, organic undies, and new food products on the market, and even some not available to the public yet, and well, you want to get the inside scoop, then you need to join the 20,000 plus people that are already receiving these updates via my Friday Finds newsletter. I share information that only my subscribers get in their inbox. Stuff like non-toxic kitchen appliances, new food finds, product recalls, food news, and even personal care products we all should or should not be using. My Friday Finds newsletter goes out once a week every Friday and has quickly become some of my followers' favorite things to open in their inbox. I've even started to include a recipe in this once a week newsletter. This is not published anywhere else and cannot be found on my blog. So if you're not part of the over 20,000 people that are in the know, be sure you're not left out by going to littlesipper.com/subscribe and enter your email. That's it. It's free. There's no spam, just helpful, insightful content full of goods, literally. So pause this episode and go to LILSIPPER.com/subscribe. That's LILSIPPER.com/subscribe. It's ridiculous. Well, and two, I think a lot of people don't realize that actually growing vegetables and all the things that goes into that, and like conventionally mostly, is they're killing more animals doing that than just, killing one cow.
Yes.
All of the rabbits and all of the little
it's
critters.
Not only that, there's even in the organic system, it doesn't matter, organic or if you're growing monocrops, you're growing one thing. If you have an entire field, just imagine you live in California, you see like a field of kale, field of cabbage. There's no life there. You're not like rabbits running around. There's no life. It's just you've destroyed all that habitat. But if you imagine a pasture where my cows are and there's all different, 20 different kinds of grasses growing and Mexican hats and bee balm and all these different things. Yesterday we were walking through the field and there's, birds are flying out and crickets and grasshoppers and cicadas are all like coming out of where the cows are, out of the grass. There's so much life there. There's jackrabbits running through. And so you're creating ecosystems with holistic planned grazing and you're destroying ecosystems with monocrops. Now, am I going to say we should no longer eat any monocrops? I'm eating potatoes and wheat and right now, like I understand that that's going to be part of it. Just like I don't have the illusion that we would get to a world where nobody ate meat, or do I think it's good? I eat dairy. Does that mean I don't think we could be more humane in the dairy industry? Of course I do. We can do better than we're doing, but we can't throw out the baby with the bathwater. It's just silliness. And it's obvious that all of the sickness that exists in the world is in our disconnection from Earth, our disconnection from the microbiology. And everything is set up perfectly. You come out of your mother, boom, through her vagina, you lick her butt on the way out, and that starts your populating your microbiology. Then the breast milk feeds those pioneer species of microbiology, and there's specific microbiology that never is in the mother, and it migrates its way to the vaginal canal in the last weeks of pregnancy. Like, it's perfect. It's divine. You are a miracle. Your body is a miracle. And then your breast milk feeds those pioneer species, and they actually create the habitat for the additional species that are going to come in as you eat your first foods, as you put things in your mouth, as you do all of that. And it goes like on and on and on. And then you're in the dirt and your mom's working in the garden and you're touching the dirt and you're feeding the microbiology. But the world we live in now, you're cut out of your mother into a sterile operating room. You're fed formula. Your mom is using sanitizer wipes on everything, thinking she's doing right by you, feeding you sterile bottles of formula, and you're playing inside. And so we're getting this industrial microbiome that is not designed to keep us as healthy as possible. It's literally just all the germs that can survive in the hospital operating room, in passing the sanitizer, the things that are surviving. And that's why kids that grow up on farms go into barns, get poop in their mouths those kids are the healthy kids because they're being exposed at a young age and their body is saying, oh, this is not the end of the world. We got a little bit of bacteria in us. We got a little fungi in us. We're going to deal with it, poop it out, vomit it up, and go on with ourselves. And that's how I grew up. And I've never gotten food poisoning. I got neurovirus once when both of my kids got neurovirus and we were stuck on an airplane and I had both kids like shitting and vomiting on me at the same time. And it was like just too much for my immune system. But I've never gotten food poisoning really in my whole life, except for that one time. And I was also 7 months pregnant. And so I think it's because I had a vaginal birth. I was breastfed. I grew up on a farm. And so I check all those boxes. My mom was not a big hand washer. I mean, yeah, sure, you wipe your butt, you wash your hands, but she wasn't like every second, like wash your hands before you touch that. Never. She wasn't like that. And so I think because of that, I have a very strong microbiology. I was also never vaccinated. I would be remiss to not mention that that probably has something as well.
I hope I'm not going to be like this for asking, but did you get COVID?
Never.
You never got it?
Never would.
I love it.
I was shocked. I have like girlfriends and everything that we all grew up kind of in the same hippie world with like limited vaccines or no vaccines and barely ever going to the doctor and, just make a comfrey compress or go get some of that plantain from the yard and chew it up and put it on the bee sting. Like never like doing anything like going to the doctor. I could count on one hand how many times I'd been to the doctor. And so when the whole COVID thing happened, I was thinking, oh, they're going to try to make everybody get some kind of, I didn't even think it was going to be a vaccine because I knew there had never been, the common cold is a coronavirus. There's so many coronaviruses and we were never successful with a vaccine. So I didn't even have the thought it was going to be a vaccine. I thought it was going to be some medicine that like everybody, they wanted to like spray up their nose or whatever, some weird new thing. And I was just like, from the beginning, like I'm a hard no on whatever kind of pharmaceutical major financial windfall that's coming for the medical industry right now. And so many of my girlfriends were like, well, we were never vaccinated as a kid. I'm sure it'll be fine. And I was like, whoa. And so, no, I actually was shocked that people were so into it because I grew up in this kind of hippie world that wasn't that into vaccines. And then I was in the ultra healthy LA foodie community, no GMOs and no this. And I was like, it's literally, mRNA technology is literally genetically modifying your own genes to do something. In this case, they're saying it's to fight COVID. But I mean, if I don't want a genetically modified corn chip, I certainly don't want to inject something into my body.
So here's a question. So you didn't get COVID. I know you live on a farm now. Were you living in a farm in 2020 or were you like in LA in like the more compacted area?
I was living outside of LA in Ventura County in Fillmore.
Okay.
And we were just living life normal.
Living life normal. So like you weren't like out on the outskirts though.
No, I mean, we were out on the outskirts of LA. I mean, in Ventura. And
right.
Saying we were on a farm and we just were living our life. The first couple of weeks, the truth is the first couple of weeks, we didn't know what was going on. We were scared.
Yeah, no one did. Yeah.
And so we felt a little scared. Like just the idea that they would shut down my business made me feel very vulnerable, financially and as a protector and mother. And I just couldn't believe that they could have that power. And I was at that moment thinking it had to be a very big deal if they had the power to shut my business down, to do that. And so the first couple weeks we were scared. And my nanny's mother was visiting from Mexico and she was in her 80s. And so those two things combined, those first couple of weeks were a little bit scary. And I was still going to the restaurants every day because we were trying to pivot. We were trying to, okay, we're going to have a little grocery. There's no groceries. We can bring vegetables from the farm. People can get groceries. We got toilet paper. We can sell toilet paper. We were like putting toilet paper on our Uber Eats accounts. Like we were every day trying to pivot. And I had a 3-month-old baby. He was born at the end of November. So he was just 3.5 months old. So I had him strapped to me and I was breastfeeding and we're going to the restaurant every day. And then we were going in the back door and I was taking my clothes off, throwing them in the washer before I came in with the other kids and then take a shower. And the second week, my son ran up to me, Mom, I'm so happy you're home. I missed you. And I said, stop, no, don't touch me. And I had a voice in my head that said, stop it. And I just, from that moment on, like the voice just said, like, do not be afraid, fear not. And then that night I was watching Instagram and this reel came up and it said, do you know what phrase is in the Bible the most times? And it said, fear not. And I took this as a God was telling me that there was nothing to be afraid of. And I, from that moment forward, walked in the world as if I had nothing to be afraid of. And I didn't rip off my clothes. I didn't think, and my people would come to the farm with masks on, and my son would say, "Oh, the air is fresh here. You don't have to worry about the virus."
I love it. Well, just to your point, there's 365 fear not verses in the Bible, one for every day of the year.
Yes, is amazing. Because what would you, and one day I'll go off about the next thing that's mentioned the most is water. And I believe that God consciousness and water are highly intertwined with each other. And I think Veda Austin's work has proven that over and over again. It's extraordinary. You should have Veda on your podcast. Look up. She's a scientist who's basically proven that water has memory. So she puts pictures or things or items underwater in a petri dish and she freezes it and the thing appears in the water over and over and over again. And she doesn't reveal any of them until she's seen it at least 50 times. And there's all this hieroglyphs in water communicating. So if you write the word love in like any language, the same hieroglyph comes up, even if you write it in Arabic or you write it in any of these things. And
amazing.
The water breaks when we're born. We're looking through a glass of water every day. Our eyes are the window to our soul, our connection to God. So anyways, I say that to say 700 and something times water is mentioned in the Bible. And so I think that's after fear not.
Wow. Well, okay, so Mollie, I wasn't even planning on asking you this. Like, this conversation took a turn that I'm loving, but on the subject of like viruses. So my husband, we always loved like talking about conspiracy theories, and most of the time, the quote conspiracy theories that we talk about, technically they do come true, or they do, are actually like real. He says his prediction is, he thinks that there's going to be a bird flu coming up. If you haven't heard, have you heard of like any talk or rumors about this? And he thinks that they're going to kind of try and do the same thing that they did with COVID with this bird flu thing. Have you had any insight on that?
I also think that is happening. I have had multiple insights about it. They're going to use it to also consolidate and control the food system more, which is my big thing in the world, is that I want to decentralize the food system, that the food system has to be decentralized because 4 major packers pack 80% of our meat. This is a national security issue. It is a national security issue that 4 major packers pack 80% of our meat. We need more people like me locally in your community growing food and providing food to your community. That is what needs to happen. And it is hard work, and it is blood, sweat, and tears. And it's much easier to do a reel on Instagram and sell some face product for sure. But the reality is what we need in the world, it's air, water, food. So we cannot have, because they are working on consolidating water and consolidating food. And so the bird flu will have 2, in my opinion, is going to have 2 tracks. It's going to be fear, control, mail-in ballots, maybe, I don't know, but it's going to for sure be about, limiting mobility and fear and control and separation and divide and conquer. That's what all of this is about, is divide and conquer. But it's also going to be working against the farmers because they're going to come in and kill. Now they've said hypothetically that the bird flu has jumped to cows and then jumped from the cows to the humans. So what does that mean? They're going to be able to come in and kill thousands of chickens, and they're going to be able to come in and kill thousands of cows and not compensate the farmer. And so it's going to put all these small farmers out of business. Sure, they're going to do it to some big farmers too, because it's going to have to be fair. But the reality is they're going to do that. They're going to, and in my opinion, that is going to be a way to take away food sovereignty from people. And people will be so afraid that they'll say, my neighbor has cows in their back pasture and nobody's tested them if they have bird flu. And because bird flu comes from wild birds, what are we going to do? We are going to consolidate all cows into consolidated feedlot systems with a screen over the top so birds can't poop down into them. Like, it's crazy. And these two people that got bird flu, like, what happened? Did they die? Their eyes got like red. It looked scary, but and then what happened? They got sick and they got better. We are divine beings. We're going to get sick and we're going to get better. It's none of it is actually a virus. It's all just our body detoxing the chemically processed world that we live in. I've never in my life had athlete's foot in my whole life. I have very dry skin. It's not normal. And since I moved to Texas, I'm getting like two little patches between my two toes on one foot, and I can feel it coming from the inside out. And my husband keeps saying, oh, well, it's because your feet are wet. I'm like, they're not. My feet don't sweat. I have really dry feet. I'm wearing flip-flops. I can feel it. It's not a virus or whatever, a bacteria attacking my foot from the outside in because my feet are moist. It is literally something trying to detox out. I can feel it and it keeps coming back. And so it's not detoxed out and I got to figure out what it is. But you can put antifungals or soak your feet in vinegar, but I feel it. I can feel it before it happens coming from the inside of my foot and coming out. And then it expresses 2 or 3 days later after I feel it inside. And so most stuff that we think is some outside thing that we need to take a pharmaceutical is our body doing some cleanup. It's a lesson. Like, I got to look, like, something in my diet here in Texas, something in my environment is not working for me. And that's why I'm getting this weird outbreak on my 3 toes that I've never had in my whole life. And now it just keeps coming back over and over.
I love that because it's so true. Like, God created our bodies so complex that they can heal themselves. They can detox themselves. If they didn't have all of these quotes, illnesses, or maybe like we're sneezing or we're even like diarrhea. Diarrhea is actually a good thing. If you have it too much, it's not good, but that's your body eliminating something that's probably not good inside of you.
No, I don't imagine that. Something gets in your body and your body's like, whoa, this is not good. Okay, we're going to consolidate a bunch of moisture out of your body and flush it out. That's a freaking miracle. And nature is the same way. The cow poops and you watch the dung beetles come flying in, roll up the balls, and then take the poop away and dig it into the ground where it's helping grow more plants. And you think to yourself, like, if you don't believe in God, check out the design of a dung beetle and then tell me that it's just some crazy Big Bang theory or whatever.
Right. Well, that's why even too, like when I get diarrhea, I'm like, oh, thank God. Because obviously I was not feeling well prior to that. I'm like, okay, I'm like getting it out. Like, I don't try and stop the diarrhea. If it's like going on for a few days, then, then that's a concern. But I'm like, let it do its thing. Let it get it out. Now, again, this conversation is just kind of like taking turns here, but I'm enjoying it.
We're not promoting Sage very well. We're talking about diarrhea.
I know. But I do want to go back to the like the bird flu just for a second, how you're talking about that whole agenda. And I'm seeing so many more food companies now produce lab-grown meat. The other day I saw a lab-grown, not lab-grown, but like fake chicken. And they were like, this chicken, not fake chicken, but a fake chicken egg. And they're like, this chicken egg, it has a runny yolk. It's cholesterol-free. It's blah, blah, blah. And it looks just like an egg. And I'm thinking, is this what we're coming to now? And now when the fear that you were just talking about, that they're going to try to instill in us about eating real food. Now we're going to feel, quote, safer to eat these processed lab-grown meats and fake eggs?
No, it's crazy. Yes. Yes. I am not interested in eating food like substances. I just was watching the Rich Roll podcast and he was eating some lab grown chicken on there. And I was thinking, wow, like that's a stand that he's taking. That's so I understand the not wanting to eat meat. It doesn't resonate with me. I don't eat meat. I actually wish that I'm like want to work my way up to it maybe, but I've never eaten meat. My parents never fed it to me. So I have don't look at it like food. Like most Americans don't look at organs like food, right? Someone's like, oh, liver and onions, ugh, right? That's how I am with meat. I don't look at it like food. Well, if we just start feeding our kids food-like substances from childhood, in a generation, they're not even going to have to use pandemics to convince us. It's just that we're just going to think that this is normal food. And so that's a big stand that he's taking, that lab-grown meat. And lab-grown meat has a lot of its own issues. One issue is it uses fetal bovine blood cells to grow it. And I have a real question of where are you getting the fetal bovine blood cells? And what they say is that when a cow is accidentally killed at the slaughterhouse with a fetus in it, they're getting it. And my question is there that much fetal bovine cells from the dairy industry? Is there that many cows being sent that are already bred? It's not that hard to do a preg check on a cow. And then my next question is, and I know some are moving away from that, but they're also using these super fast growing cells. Well, what is a super fast mutating growing cell? It's cancer.
Yeah, I heard that.
And so my question is, are we contributing, like, how are we getting, I want to know, like, for real, and I don't know. I had just had someone from that industry explain to me that it's only a byproduct of the dairy industry. And then I was like, so what part of the dairy industry is making fetal bovine blood cells? And she was like, oh, well, when accidentally they're killed in the slaughterhouse. And that's interesting because there's a slaughterhouse in LA, and I know when they figure out that a cow is pregnant, they usually they're like, take it back until it's not pregnant. That's a normal thing that I've seen with butchers here too. The butcher in Fillmore, I have a neighbor that took some sheep that were pregnant and he was super mad about it. He was like, I don't like that. I don't like that. I don't want that. So, but if that's true, if everybody turned vegan, where would we get the fetal bovine cells? And I'm suspect about all these things that we need to use fetuses for, vaccines.
Oh, I'm right there with you, Molly. I'm right there with you. I mean, I feel like you need to come back for a third
We need to have a conspiracy theory rundown with Molly.
Conspiracy theory part 3. What I wanted to actually, and I wrote down a few things for those listening that maybe are not in the LA area, but so many people travel to LA. And so you have one in Pasadena, one in Echo Park, and Sage Regenerative Kitchen. I want us to read off a few things off your menu, if you don't mind.
No, I
because
don't.
It's amazing if you just listen to this. So you have a regenerative cheese board. It's a sampling of A2 heritage cheeses, smoked Gouda, triple cream, raw cheddar. You serve it with house-made fig compote, raw honey, assorted fruits and nuts. All right, that's just to start. Now you have the What's Possible burger.
It's impossible to have health eating an impossible burger. But what's possible when man and bovine and grass and sun come together to sustain you?
I love it. I love the name. And you use Force of Nature's grassland grazed bison patty. You use regenerative A2 raw cheddar, lettuce, house-made chipotle mayo. I love that you do the house-made tomato. You used the fried jalapeno served on a regenerative whole wheat sourdough bun. How delicious does that sound, you guys? I mean, you have bison meatballs that are also from Force of Nature Regenerative. You have a house-made pesto, A2 mozzarella. You have ginger bone broth ramen with the option to choose an organic gluten-free black rice noodles with chicken bone broth. I mean, you have a huge taco selection. You have vegan option for tacos, grass-fed carne asada, pasture-raised shredded chicken. I can go on. But all to say is, if you are in the LA area, Pasadena or Echo Park, please do check this restaurant out. If you do live in the area, go and support, because I mean, I'm afraid to ask, but is closing on your radar?
It is. I actually had to borrow $75,000 today to keep going. So, and I had to leverage some land to borrow that money. So yeah, it literally is on the radar. And I hope that it doesn't happen. I hope that people wake up and want to share and want to come there and want to support. And if you're in Texas, we have a hospitality ranch as well. If you want to do a wedding or a family reunion or retreats, we have 40 beds and a restaurant on the ranch and farm to table cuisine. And this lovely house, oh, well, we're just listening, we're not seeing, is one of my rental houses, but you can come here and enjoy Sovereignty Ranch. And if you're interested in homesteading, if you're living in a city and you think, oh, I really just want to have a life that's different than this, on October 4th, we're doing a 1-week homesteading course. And you can buy tickets. The link is in my Instagram, or you can go to the website for thesovereigntyranch.com. And you stay here for a week and you learn how to make sourdough bread and kimchi and compost and move electric fences and plant things and milk cows and collect eggs and sourdough starter and sauerkraut and canning and preserving and dehydrating, all of those things, tincture making. These are all things that we will be teaching. And you can come and check it out, and you can rent one of the houses on the ranch, and you can see, like, what would it be like to live on a farm and get up every morning and milk a cow, and see if that resonates with you. Because we need more of you to grow food for all of us. If we don't, right now, 1% of the population grows food for the other 99% or 2%, so 1.5% or something. We need more farmers.
And if you are ever thinking about or have ever wanted to grow your own food or make your own, like, butter or, all the homesteading things, I think that's a great option and a great way to kind of dip your toes into. I was watching this, you're going to laugh, Molly. I was watching this reel, and this girl posted, and she was dead serious. It was not like a fake thing. She was talking about, she had like a lemon tree in her backyard. And she goes, my friend came over and she asked me why I had a bag of lemons that I bought from the store. And I said, well, because I wanted lemons. But she goes, but you have a lemon tree in your backyard. And she goes, yeah, but I don't know, like, it didn't occur to her. And she goes,
well, she said, I saw the reel. She said, well, I didn't know what I had to do to the lemons to make them finished or whatever. And her friend was like, you just go take the lemons. And she was like, I was today years old when I learned that I could have a lemon off of my lemon tree. That is so real. I had my cousin text me pictures from her boss, or somebody was like, they want you to look at their lemon tree. Something is wrong with their lemons. So they sent me a picture and I was like, it looks fine. And they were like, well, why are the lemons all different shapes?
oh.
And I was like, oh, well, lemons grow in all different shapes. And they're like, well, why are they all the same at the store? And I was like, well, that shape is the shape that they sell in the store, and all other shapes get turned into lemon juice. And the lady was like, what do you mean? And I was like, we only get 10 cents on the dollar for every lemon that's not shaped in that way. But trees don't make all the lemons shaped that way. It's only like 40% of the lemons are shaped. A lot of them are round or fatter, or some are like elongated, but mostly they look like an orange shape or like a fatter lemon shape, or the shape you see in the store. But this lady did it, and there was like folds in some of the skin. And she's like, there's folds in some of the skin. And I was like, yeah, this is just, lemons come in all different shapes and sizes. And literally, we only sell the ones in the store, basically 3 sizes and 1 shape that we sell in the stores. And this person thought there was something wrong with her lemon tree because the lemons came out all different. I saw a tweet, and I think that they were serious, but I don't know. It's a tweet. How can you know? But they said, I don't know what all the fuss about farmers is. You can go to Kroger and get everything you need. I mean, we're doomed.
Yeah, I mean, that's what it's come to. People don't know where their food is coming from or how to manage or what, I mean, I think I saw someone too, they didn't know that cheese came unshredded. Like if you just buy shredded cheese in a bag, and they're like, well, what is this? It's like cheese that's it's not shredded yet. It's like a block of cheese. And they're like, oh, wait, what? You don't just buy like the cheese that's shredded? Like there's a different form? Like it's just crazy to me.
I mean, and I get it because we're just all distracted with so much stuff. But this is a good place to end, is just, the diet needs to be local, from someone you know, and shake the hand that feeds you. Stop trading our resilience for convenience. And consumers have the power to move the needle. People say, well, I live in a city and I don't want to live in a farm, and what can I do? Well, then you got to do a little bit of sacrifice and drive somewhere, buy a quarter cow share, go to the farm, buy your whatever directly from someone you know. And yes, it's going to be more expensive. You know why? Because they're not operating at scale and they're not having some crazy big machinery that can do the job in 5 seconds. It's real people doing the job. And so that's what needs to happen. And that is what I recommend, is that you buy from farmers that are doing stuff that you believe in. You buy from White Oak Pastures, and you buy from Polyface Farms. You buy whoever's locally to you. You buy from Sovereignty Ranch. You buy, and then you support farmers that are doing the right thing.
Yes. So go support local, go support Sage Regenerative Kitchen. I will put all the links that Mollie mentioned. If you guys want to go on October 4th, I'll put the link to obviously her restaurant and everything else so that you can have easy access to that. And you can go in today's show notes and check that out. Mollie, we're going to have you back for a 3rd time and do all conspiracy.
All conspiracy. And wait, one last thing I just need to shout out. We have a women's retreat called Divine and Dangerous. We're doing yoga and breath work, but we're also doing gun training, archery, self-defense. This is celebrating the divine and dangerous in all of you crunchy moms out there. So calling in the mama bears, Divine and Dangerous, 3rd weekend of September here on Sovereignty Ranch.
Dang, Divine and Dangerous.
Mollie 10, you get a 10% discount.
Okay, there you go, you guys. There's the code Mollie 10. Okay, so we'll put that.
Sorry, I forgot that.
No, give it all. So we'll put all those links and info in today's show notes. Thanks again, Mollie. You are always welcome back.
Bethany, thank you. We'd love to have you and your husband come out to the ranch and let's just talk conspiracy theories.
Oh, let's do it.
Okay, bye-bye.
All right. Thanks for listening to this episode of Digest This. If you enjoyed this episode, please leave a review in your podcast app to let us know. If you're ever wondering how you can support me and this podcast, sharing it with your friends and family is the best way. This is a Resonant Media production produced by Drake Peterson and edited by Mike Fry. To email the show, message us at digestthispod@gmail.com. See you next time. The content of this show is for educational and informational purposes only. It is not a substitute for individual medical and mental health advice and does not constitute a provider-patient relationship. As always, talk to your doctor or health team first.